this morning, page Kuf Yud Daled, right? We began this section yesterday. Will the Meir session continue it today? Harachilus v'lashon hara. So again, we began yesterday to discuss the severity of rechilus lashon hara. Remember again our context that Ramchal is talking about over here, the interpersonal averus that we often end up violating without even realizing that we're actively violating something. Just by in the course of normal day-to-day activity, these are the things that we end up doing wrong. So rechilus, remember we defined these terms yesterday. So rechilus means, again, really tale-bearing. Speaking, just conveying information from one person to another, even though the information, gossiping, even though the information itself may not be negative about someone. Just the act of going ahead and being someone who talks here and talks there, that's rechilus. Lashon hara, of course, is slander, even if it's true. So, kvar chumra noda, the godel anafav ki rabba ma'od. Everyone is already aware of the severity of these prohibitions, and the godel anafav means the many appendages, right? The many appendages and pieces that it has. Ad shekvar gazru omer chacham zichron livracha b'mamar shekvar iskarti v'kulam ba'avak lashon hara. And I will say the truth is that the aspects and details of lashon hara and rechilus are so many and so intense and so detailed that Chazal say almost everyone, kulam actually says kulam, everyone, ba'avak lashon hara. I will say avak lashon hara literally means the dust of lashon hara, which means although there are some who do not actively engage in lashon hara, everyone says something that borders on lashon hara, right? Or is that some derivation of lashon hara? Va'amru hechi dami lashon hara. So the Gemara gives examples. What's lashon hara? And they both say, now understand. So when the Gemara says hechi dami lashon hara, the Gemara is not asking, so what's an example of lashon hara? Right? I go over to Reuven and I say, Shimon's a jerk. Right? The Gemara is not that's obvious. That's obvious. So the Gemara is asking really is, give me an example of more nuanced lashon hara, something that perhaps I wouldn't necessarily automatically assume is lashon hara. So the Gemara gives an example. Kigon da'amar heicha mishtachach nura. Let's say someone comes over to me and they say to me, where could I find a fire? Right? They're asking is, let's say it's late at night or whatever it is, whose house can I find a fire in? So the Gemara says, Ella Beiplanya. So we'll say, so ultimately again, so let me say it a little bit differently. I make this statement, I'm talking to my friend and say, you know where you could find a fire burning right now, even in the middle of the night? Reuven's house. Reuven's always got a fire burning. Now we'll say, now what's the inference of that statement? Right? The inference of that statement is Reuven is a rich guy. Reuven's a rich guy. He's always got, if you look at footnote 160, he says, Heicha timtza ata ish al beso shaploni, demashma ashirhu, v'chosha matzui ish bebeso levashal tavshilin. The Kavanasa Omer came, lirmos al genuso shel osa adam, shumar besuda. Supposed to listen to this. So, the statement of, if I go over to Reuven and I say, Reuven, if you wanted to find a fire burning even in the middle of the night, whose house you could go to? Shimon. Shimon's always got a fire burning. So I'll say, if somebody were to ask you, is such a statement like that lashon hara? I'd be tempted to say, no. Okay, it's strange. Why are you talking about Shimon's fires? But the Gemara understands it to mean that what the real connotation of my statement is, Shimon is rich. He's always got a fire burning because he's always cooking food. And he's always cooking food because he's such a glutton. Then I will say, now the truth is, you have to dig really deep to find the negativity in that statement, right? That statement can be interpreted as a totally innocuous statement like, okay, Shimon's a rich guy, so he's always got a fire. I'm sorry? He's a Baal Chesed, right? He's always entertaining guests. But the point over here is that the statement could be interpreted as a reflection of, or as my statement on Shimon's gluttony. He's got a fire always burning because he's always cooking, because he's always eating. So I'll say, so the Gemara says, this is an example of lashon hara. So this is a pretty extreme idea because you see from here that what? that we all understand Lashon Hara in the realm of an explicitly negative statement. But to understand Lashon Hara, even as something that's nuanced, and by the way, that might not even be what I mean, but because it calls me the way that I say it, how it's interpreted, who I'm saying it to, that becomes Lashon Hara. Oh, sheyisaper tovasa lifnei sonav v'chol ki yotzei bazeh. But see another example of Lashon Hara. This is incredible. Let's say I'm talking about Ruvain in front of Shimon. I know that Shimon doesn't like Ruvain. He doesn't like him. So I go over to Shimon, that Ruvain, what a good guy. What a solid individual. What a ben Torah, what a this, what a that. So I'll say, inevitably, if you speak about someone in positive, glowing terms, in front of someone who does not like that individual, what is going to happen? Negative conversation is going to ensue. Shvazi, here's another example. That's Lashon Hara as well. I didn't say anything wrong. In fact, just the opposite. I'm speaking in glowing terms about Ruvain, right? I'm being nice about him, but elamai context. I'm speaking about him to someone who I know doesn't like him. So therefore, it's only a matter of time until something negative comes up. The chol kiyotze bazeh. And other examples of this. Afa pi shenirim dvarim kalim urechokim min harechilos. Hine be'emes me'avak shalohim. So we'll say, so now you begin to see the wisdom in the statement of Chazal, where Chazal say, everyone engages in avak lashon hara. So we'll say avak lashon hara means the dust of lashon hara, which means things that are not explicitly lashon hara, but least lashon hara. We'll say, right? We've all had conversations like this where you're talking nicely about someone, and somehow, some way, within a matter of moments, you didn't realize who you're talking to. You didn't realize the history that person has with the person who you're talking about, and suddenly, what began as a beautiful opportunity to speak nicely about another Jew, mamish descends into lashon hara chaos. So that's when Chazal said, and this happens to everyone. There's no person who escapes this. At the end of the day, everyone gets stuck in avak lashon hara. So therefore, I will say, klalo shel davar harbe drachim lehitzer aval kol dibor sheyuchal lehivalid mimenu nezek o bizayin lechavero bein befanav bein shelo befanav. Hare ze bichlal lashon hara hasanai umesuav lifnei hamakom. So we'll say this is really quite amazing. So essentially, says the Mechaber, says the Ramchal, any word that you say that can potentially engender lashon hara, right? Any word that you could say that could potentially engender like negative, hurt, degradation, damage to someone else, is included in lashon hara. So he says, "Shamru alav kala masapar lashon hara kilu kofer beikar ukrak seitap of kof tesvav melashni basei serei otza asmis." So we'll say, so this is really quite amazing, because it turns out then, says the Ramchal, that anything I say that could descend into lashon hara essentially is treated like lashon hara. So we'll say this sets a very high bar, because essentially we'll say, so pretty much like the only way to kind of ever to escape something like this is how it's so lav dafka. Me, don't speak about people. Don't speak about people. You can speak about stuff, right? You can speak about You can speak about. Don't speak about people, because at the end of the day, so what the Ramchal says is, if there's a chance that something that you're going to say is going to result in hurting someone, degrading someone, embarrassing someone, don't say it. And now we begin to see the variables are like immeasurable. I could be having, and I will say again, we know this, I could be having the most innocuous conversations with the purest of kavanas, but I can't control what the other person thinks or what the other person says. Now, we know Hilchos Lashon Hara is, even if I'm not speaking it, but I'm hearing it and I'm a party to it, or I'm the catalyst for it, that's problematic as well. Therefore, now you begin to understand why Chazal say everybody, kulam ba'avak lashon hara. No one escapes the tangentially related conversations of lashon hara, because it's virtually impossible to escape them. Therefore, says the Ramchal, before speaking, ask yourself: can this conversation, can this statement potentially embarrass, damage or hurt someone else. And if there's any even remote possibility, says the Ramchal, don't say it. All right, we'll stop over here. We'll pick up Emir Hashem tomorrow with Nikima and Netira, revenge and harboring grudges. 100%. So look, obviously at a certain point in time, you can only do your best. But right? It could be topic A is fine, and it's topic B that's very true. All right, Rabbi, say good morning. Let's begin. A lot to do today. An incredible and exciting daf as well. Rabbi, say today's daf is Yud Gimel. We are picking up. Yud Dalit. We are picking up on Yud Gimel on days at the Mishnah. So we have a lot to do today. We thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Cheshvan, Adam and Yudit Ben Zev, for dedicating all the shiur and drushos of this month in memory of Adam in memory of Adam's grandfather, and in honor of Adam's grandmother and parents, for serving as such incredible role models. May they be blessed with arichos yamim v'shanim. We thank the Ben Zevs very much for their generosity and dedication. And also with that, let's begin. Mishnah. Ha'chareshes v'hashota v'asuma v'shnitzer fadaita. Well, it's a very interesting case. We're talking now, remember again, the topic of this parak is called Hayad Hamarbe. We're talking about bedikos. We got a little bit, not derailed, but a little bit sidetracked yesterday because we were talking about male bedikos. But the topic over here is really going to be the bedikos that a woman does, legabe hilchos niddah. So the Mishnah raises a very interesting case. What happens if you have a woman who's a chareshes? So a chareshes normally means deaf mute. Shota, insane. Suma, blind. Nitra fadaita means insane. We'll see the difference in these cases in just a little bit. So we'll say, what's the halacha? Im yeshlan pikchos, if there are quote-unquote normal women, pikchos means normal women, fully functioning women who are able to help her out. Metaknos oso, so we'll say metaknos oso literally means they help her to perform her bedikos. They help her to perform bedikos, vein ochlos betruma. So we'll say, so remember again, the ramification over here is twofold. It could be vis-a-vis taras hamishpacha for marriage, although some of these women listed over here would not have the das to enter into marriage. But more simply, let's say these women are part of a Kohanic family, in which case they are entitled to consume truma. You can't eat truma if you're a niddah. So what happens? We go ahead and essentially we establish women who are quote unquote normal, typical functioning women to help out these disabled women with their bedikos in order to be able to eat truma. Says the Gemara, I don't see in these cases. Chareshes, deaf mute, tivdok l'nafsha. Why does a deaf mute woman need help with her bedikos? Right? Let her do her own bedikos. Disanya, Amar Rabbi Chareshes haisa bishchunosenu. So the Rebbe says there was once a woman who was a chareshes in our neighborhood. Lo daya shebodekes liatzma. We'll say this is incredible. Not only did she do her own bedikos, but what? She was an expert. So her friends used to bring her bedikos in order to look at them. To which the Gemara says, let's define our terms. Hasam b'midaberes ve'eno shomas. Hacha b'she'eno midaberes ve'eno shomas. So we'll say the case in the Brisa over here in the neighborhood of Rebbe was a chareshes who was able to speak but unable to hear, which I will say, Bepashtos in the times of the Gemara means what? She had her hearing at one point in time and subsequently lost her hearing, which means she is a balas das. So because she is a balas das, she's capable then of taking care of her own bedikos. The Mishnah's case is Eino Midaberes ve'eno shomas. She doesn't speak and she never heard. So we'll say, so remember again, and this is excuse me, this is reflective of Chazal's time. There's an incredible amount of halachic literature, contemporary halachic literature, about the status of a cheresh in today's day and age. And when I say today, it's not, I don't mean today, it's sort of going back a couple of decades, right? But the idea being, from Chazal's perspective, if a woman was a chareshes, she did not have das. If she didn't have das, then ultimately, again, she cannot be trusted by herself for her own bedikos. So the case over here in the Mishnah is the eno shoma'as ve'eno medaber. She doesn't hear and she doesn't speak. Kidisnan cheresh shedibru chachamim b'chol makom eno shoma'as ve'eno medaber. So we'll say this chareshes, who therefore again, according to Chazal, lacks das, halach l'maisa requires a pikachas, what we'll call a normal, typical woman, to assist her with her bedikos. Next, suma, blind woman. Why does a blind woman need help? Let her check herself, and what? She'll show it to her friend. In other words, the disability of the chareshes is an akila when she can't see, but she could do the bedika. Let her do the bedika, show it to her friend. Rabbi Yossi Chanina Suma Eina Mina Mishnah. Eina take out Suma from the list. Suma does not belong in our Mishnah. Next, Shenitra Fadaita. So we'll say Nitra Fadaita literally means she went insane. Hainu Shota. That's the same thing as a Shota. Shenitra Fadaita Machmas Choli. Ultimately, what's the case? The case, Rabbi says, interestingly enough, Shota seems to usually refer to someone who is some type of psychological disorder that may be inherent, that may be biological to the person. Nitra Fadaita, the Gemara understands, is a result of some type of illness. Okay, just different types of women. Same idea. They lack das, and because of that, they again require the assistance of the pikachos, of the typical normal woman, to assist with the bedikas. So we'll say, here we go. Tan Rabbanan. So we'll say, now that we spoke about these concepts for women, the Gemara is going to speak about a similar concept for men. Tan Rabbanan, Kohen Shota. We'll say an interesting case. What happens if you have a Kohen who is a Shota? Right, you're supposed to remember again, Shota is not like a derogatory, he's insane. Shota is a halachic classification. The Gemara says, what is the definition of someone who is insane? So the Gemara defines it ultimately through erratic behaviors. So the Gemara says, for example, someone who is korea begadov, someone who tears his clothing, just tears his clothing for no reason. Or lan bebeis hakvaras, someone who goes ahead and sleeps in the cemetery. So this is actually amazing. The definition of a shota, of someone who does not have das, is someone who does irrational things, which is a pretty scary definition, right? Because it would seem to cover a wide swath of people, right? But the idea, in a halachic sense, it's someone who engages in a repeated pattern of just irrational and illogical behavior. So we'll say, what happens if you have a Kohen who is a shota? So what do we do? So we'll say now, we want him to be able to go ahead and eat truma. The problem is, in order to eat truma, what has to happen? You have to be tahor. So what do we do? Matbilin oso, we take him to the mikvah, we immerse him in the mikvah, uma'achilin oso truma la'eref, right? And we go ahead and we allow him to eat truma. So we'll say we wait till the evening, because maybe he's a balkari. So we wait till the evening, goes to the mikvah, herev shemesh, good to go. U'mishamer noso shelo yashin. But we make sure that he doesn't fall asleep. So in other words, we're both saying that the window of his truma consumption only applies while he's awake. Because if he falls asleep, what are we concerned about? A seminal emission, becoming a balkari. Yashin tameh. If he falls asleep, we assume that he's tameh. Lo yashin tar. But as long as he stays awake, in other words, as long as we get him to the mikvah, sundown, and he's awake, he can eat as much truma as he wants. Once he goes to sleep, we would have to repeat that same process again. Rabbi Tzadok says, Osin lo kis shel or. So I'll say, Rabbi Tzadok says that we make from like an additional garment, right, a leather pouch that goes over the makom erva to be able to see, and that way again to see if he had any kind of seminal emission. Amrulo, kol shekein shemei leidei. So we'll say, so again, it's actually interesting because we'll get into this sugya. The Gemara says leather itself could become warm. That goes back to yesterday's discussion that could cause arousal. And the arousal itself ultimately, again, could go ahead and make him a balkari. Amar lahem ledivreichem shota ein lo takana. So Rabbi Elazar says to them, well, according to you then, there's no way for a kohen shota to eat truma. They said, no, Amar lo dvarenu, yashen tamei lo yashen tar. We already told you how to do it. Take him to the mikvah, wait till sundown, and again, as long as he's awake, he could eat truma. It's just that he can't go to sleep. Lidvarecha shema yira tipa kecharda v'tivla bekis. we'll say there's two problems with the leather pouch. Number one is that it in and of itself could cause arousal and a seminal emission. And number two, even if there is an emission, at the end of the day, that emission could get absorbed in the leather itself. And therefore, again, you won't even be able to see if anything happened. Okay, so we'll say another accessory over here. The Gemara says they made him a kiss, they made him some type of garment out of metal. Right? So the idea over here would be they would put that over osam makom, and then what would happen? If there would be a type of seminal emission, so obviously that wouldn't get absorbed in the metal. Amar Abaye v'shan l'choshes. Abaye says it was copper, not the metal. Kidesanya. Rabbi Huda Omer Rowan also give ulin shal ezov kiluhein shal l'choshes. Rabbi say this is a din by para aduma, which actually references back to one of the halachas that we spoke about last week's staff, which was that halacha l'maisa, in order for the para aduma to be proper, there has to be a certain amount of water. The way we measure the amount of water is as if the azov, as if the hyssop, which is put into the water and then sprinkled on the person who is tamei, is made of copper, and therefore there's no absorption. In other words, that when taking into account the amount of water we need, we do not take into account hyssop absorption. Instead, we assume that the hyssop is made of copper and therefore doesn't absorb. The only reason the Gemara is bringing this down is to show us that what? Copper doesn't absorb. Therefore, for the Kohen Shota, the best thing you could do is fashion him some type of kiss made out of nechoshes. That way, if he has a seminal emission, you'll be able to see it and it won't get absorbed. Fine. So we'll say, Papa. So we'll say, Papa says something amazing. Shma mina, you see from here something very interesting, which is Michnasayim Asurim. So we'll say, what do you see from here? That michnasayim, that we normally translate, pants are asur. So we'll say, okay, sounds like an interesting Gemara, right? We'll say, what it means is, what it's really referring over here is to underwear. So we'll say, what the Gemara said is as follows. The Gemara had a problem over here with giving the Kohen Shota a leather pouch. What was it concerned about? That the leather itself would rub against the aver, cause ultimately again arousal, and could lead to a seminal emission. The Gemara says, you see from here that what? That it could be that tighter fitting underwear could be problematic because ultimately again the material rubs against the individual, causing arousal, potentially resulting in seminal emission. To which the Gemara says, but one second. But the Kohanim, right? One of the big day kahuna were michnasayim. Right, michnes sebarabosai does not mean pants, right? But rather, again, it means like an undergarment. To which the Gemara says, so the Gemara says, "Kedesanya michnes sekarla mahindom." So this is very interesting. So, what did the Kohanic undergarments? What did they look like? Kamin pamlanya shal parashim. It looked like the pamlanya of prashim. Very helpful. Right? So look at the Gemara says. So the Gemara, look at pamlanya sinar. V'chala toloi lamata berachav shlois atei fa'er v'yischamim shal prushim snuim lishna achrina shal parashim. So we'll say, so it looked like, it really seems the second lashon of Rashi is the primary one. It looked like the type of undergarments, the type of underwear worn by those who ride horses. So we'll say, as we're going to see essentially, to put it in blunt contemporary terms, they were very loose boxers with drawstrings. So Shabbos says there was no elastic, obviously, but again, it was a drawstring, loose-fitting undergarment. That is apparently what the people who used to ride horses would wear. So the Gemara says, what was the description of it? Lemala ad masnaim, it would go up until the waist. Lemata ad yirechaim. Ultimately, again, it would go literally on the bottom until the thighs. Ve'ishlem shinatzim, and it had drawstrings. Ve'ein lahem lo beis hanekev v'lo beis ha'erva. And Abba said it didn't have a beis hanekev. Beis hanekev means sometimes undergarments would have like an opening in the back. So if a person had to defecate, they wouldn't have to pull everything down, but it would have just an opening in the back. This did not have an opening in the back, nor did it have v'lo beis ha'erva, nor did it have a pouch. Nor did it have a pouch for the aver in the front. So I'll say ultimately again, this was the undergarments ultimately again of the Kohanim. They're right, knickers, right? So I'll say, so I'll just tell you, and we don't have time for it today, but it's actually quite fascinating because this could have. What do you do with this Gemara for today? Does this mean that a person could only wear undergarments that are loose fitting? Right? What about tighter fitting undergarments? So the Otzra Poskim is amazing. Otzra Poskim has a whole discussion about this. This is in Even HaEzer Siman Chav Gimel Sif Vav, where this is brought down by the Ramah. So the Pesach Tshuva and others quote opinions who ultimately say that this was Dafka a din in Truma. That this was Dafka din in Avoda, a din in Truma. After all, again, the topic over here is Truma consumption by Kohen Shota, right? The Michnas Eibad is by the Kohanim. So some explain that this obligation to wear like the loose fitting, what was the word? Knickers or breeches, right? That was a din dafka by Kohanim, dafka by Avoda, dafka by Truma, but ultimately, again, outside of that context, that may not apply. Again, we'll put it on the list of Daf Yomi Sugis that we have to come back to in Yirtz Hashem. All right, Rabbi says. So says the Gemara. Amar Abaye. Abaye says, Rabbi says, now that we're on this topic a little bit, top of your Dalid, Rochvei Gimalim Asur Nechal B'Truma. We'll say those who ride camels are not permitted to eat Truma. Now, I both say, that's not a shtach against camels, but rather, again, what the Gemara is saying over here, look at Rashi, that sometimes, ultimately, again, just by riding the camel itself, a person becomes aroused, has an emission, and therefore can't eat Truma. Those who ride camels, pretty strong, Kulam Rishayim, right? Camel riders are all Rishayim. I will say now, the idea behind it is because of, I guess, just the act of riding the camel in and of itself leads to Otzaz Zar Lebatala. This is incredible. Hasapanim, all sailors, Kulam Tzadikim. All sailors are tzaddikim. I will say now, this is incredible. Now, why is that? Rashi says, listen to this. Kulam tzaddikim, shedarim b'sakana, because sailors are always in sakana. V'libam la'avim shabashamayim, and they will say, and therefore again, they're very pious. They might curse a lot also, right? But ultimately again, right? But halacha l'maisa, they're very, very, very religious. I will say, by the way, where do we see this? In Yonah, right? Remember again, I will say this is the dramatic piece in the story of Yonah. When the boat is about to capsize, the sailors are praying. Now, granted, they're praying to every god out there, but Lamaisa, again, it's an incredible testament to their spirituality. People who live on the high seas have to rely a lot. They're very pious, again, in their own way, but very religious. Hachamarim. What about those who drive donkeys, who ride donkeys? Mehen Rishon, mehen tzadikim. Some of them are righteous, some of them are wicked. So we'll say, who's who? So we'll say, everyone says it depends. Those who use a saddle, and therefore again, both say because they're not sitting directly on the donkey, the warmth of the donkey doesn't stimulate them. Therefore, again, they're tzadikim. Hadalo mekif. But if you don't use a saddle, then ultimately, again, you get into the camel problem and kalita semeli mission. Those are the Rishon. Bikadamri ha dimitartin hadalo mitartin. Others will say that those who go ahead, and it depends how you ride the donkey. If you ride donkey, what is it called? Like side saddle. Is that what's right? Where so you don't, let me say it differently. If you straddle the donkey, those are the Rishon. Because ultimately, again, that can lead to Otzaz Zar Lebatala. If you ride like side saddle, ultimately, again, those are the tzaddikim. Rabbi Shmuel Levi, Layit Aman Degani Aprakis. So I'll say another incredible sugya. Rabbi Shmuel Levi cursed anyone who slept a prakid or a parkid. Rashi says, what does that refer to? Panav lemala. You are not allowed to sleep on your back. So we'll say, now the lashon over here is layit, he cursed. So we'll say, which sounds like it's aser, but it's not like a declarative statement of Chazal. Now the Shulchan Aruch happens to codify this as well, halacha l'maisa, that one is not supposed to sleep on their back. Why not? Rashi says, Shepam she'iskashe evar toch shenaso, v'yiskalgel. Both like, because sometimes it can lead to a person's just humiliation, because sometimes a person becomes aroused over the course of the night, and if you're sleeping on your back, that arousal becomes noticeable to others as well. Va'od sheyadav munachos lo alevara umischamim. And I will say sometimes if someone is sleeping on their back, so it could be that the natural placement of their hands is by the aver, which could ultimately lead to Otzaz Zar Lebatala. So Rabbi Shmuel Levi therefore says one should not sleep on their back. Now, what I want to point out to you is if you just look to the left at Tosas, so Tosas quotes, it's the same thing, Aprakid. So in the middle of Tosas quotes the lashon of the Aruch. The Aruch says, Tosas disagrees with the Aruch, but I just want to point out to you that the Shita exists. The Aruch says the Perish Panav Mata. The Aruch says, aprokid means you can't sleep on your stomach. Same idea. His concern with sleeping on your stomach is that it can lead to arousal, which then goes ahead and leads to otzah zar levatala. But amazingly enough, we'll say, so exact opposite opinions. Rashi telling us that aprokid means on your back. Tosas says on your stomach, which leads the halacha to say, sleep on your side, right? So that is the. So again, I'm just pointing out that this halacha does exist. A person says that some people can only fall asleep on their back, some people can only fall asleep on their stomach. Okay, but again, just a halacha to be conscious of. So the Gemara says, "Ini, is this so that you're not allowed to sleep on your back?" V'amar Rav Yosef, "Prakton lo yikra kriyashma." But say the halacha says that what? But say we're going to be by brachas. By brachas, where is this in brachas? Yud Gimel Amud Beis. We'll say just probably what. Maybe 63 days, something like that. The Agudah sends out about 15 emails a day, right? With all the days. Good. So you have praktan lo yikra kriyashma. One says if you're laying on your back, so you should not say Shema. So we'll say kriya Shema hu de lo yikra ha migna shapir dami. So we'll say what it sounds like is you can't say Shema, but you can sleep on your back. To which the Gemara says, here we go. Le'in migna. We'll say when it comes to sleeping, kimasli shapir dami. So we'll say when it comes to sleeping, all you really need to do is what? Shift a little bit to your side. The idea over here is that one should not sleep on their back, but all one needs to do is shift just a little bit to the side. Leaning kriya Shema, when it comes to Shema, kimatz li aser. Leaning to your side a little bit is not enough. You either have to be up or totally on your side. But Rabbi Yochanan would move to his side a little bit and recite Shema. Shani Rabbi Yochanan the Baal Basar Haya. Rabbi Yochanan was very heavy. And therefore, again, for him to move at all was a big avoda. So for him, moving to his side a little bit was enough for Kriya Shema. So Rabbi say, so therefore, again, what we come out over here is that halacha, the Gemara, and the Shulchan Aruch does quote this halacha that ideally one should not sleep on their back. Mishnah Berurah also quotes on the stomach. Just like the Aruch, if at all possible that one has the ability to move, to position to the side, certainly best. If one can fall asleep on these positions, one falls asleep how one falls asleep. Says the Mishnah, Derech benos yisra mishamashos b'shnei edim. So we'll say the derech of Jewish women is to have two bedikos when they have relations. And I both say, now what are the two bedikos? Echad lo v'echad lo. One for her and one for him. They will say, so literally, again, what this means is after Bia, we'll see Allah what we do with these ideas. But one for her, one for him. That she checks herself after Bia, he checks himself after Bia. So the Gemara says, Vatznuos, and the especially modest or pious women, mitaknos shlishi letakines habayis. They do a third bedika, and I will say, what's that third bedika? That's to go ahead and check herself prior to relations. So I will say, so me'ikar adin, the halacha is the halacha as espoused by the Mishnah is two bedikos after bia. He checks himself, she checks herself. The tznuos add in an additional bedika prior to bia. So we'll say, what's the halacha now? Let's analyze this. Let's analyze. Nimsa al shalo. Let's say he finds blood on his cloth. So timeyin v'chayav in karba. So we'll say if he finds blood on his cloth, then Allah said that's indicative that dam came from bia, which means again there was blood during relations. If there was blood during relations, then what? That ultimately it turns out that he had relations with a woman who's a niddah v'chayav in karban, and they're both obligated to bring a karban. Nimsa al shalo. We'll say, what happens if she finds the blood? Now, we'll say, the issue over here is that when he finds blood on his cloth, that blood couldn't have come from anywhere other than the bia. I was going to say, now again, if he has a wound or he has some kind of injury, that's something different. But assuming that's not the case, there's no other way to attribute the dam except from the bia. What happens if nimsal shalah? So we'll say if she finds the dam on her cloth, so remember again, there's a couple of possibilities. It could be that what? It could be that she experienced bleeding during the bia, but it could also be that what? That what? The blood came after the bia. So therefore, when it comes to her cloth, everything depends on when she checked herself. Nimsa al shalah, if she goes ahead and she checks herself. So the Gemara says, es yom. So we'll say es yom, Rashi says, is miyad la'achar be'ilah. If she checked herself immediately after relations, then what? Tameyin v'chayav in karban. then ultimately again he has tumas niddah, she has tumas niddah, and what? They're chayiv karban. So we'll say if she checks, and we'll discuss what immediately means. But if she checks immediately after biyah and she finds blood on her cloth, then halacha l'maisa they're tamei and chayiv karban. Nimtza al shla la'achar zman, but if halacha l'maisa again, she goes ahead and checks herself or finds blood on her cloth, but she didn't check herself until sometime later. So we'll say we'll see what later means also. La'achar zman, Rashi says la'achar es yom. So we'll say so apparently what we have is like this. There is the shir of es yom. Es yom means immediately, and then after es yom there's the shir of achar zman. So if she checks herself afterwards, after es yom, then what? Lachzan tmein misafek. Ultimately, again, there's tuma misafek. Upeturin mina karban. So let's remember again, tmein misafek would mean what? That ultimately, again, which means like if she touched truma, we would say tolen. Right? We wouldn't destroy it, we wouldn't eat it, we would just kind of suspend it. Upeturin mina karban. But ultimately, again, there is no karban. Eizuhu acharei zman. So I'll say, what does it mean? So what's achar zman? So I'll say, so in other words, what is non-immediate? What's after the elapsing of time? So the Gemara says, Kedei sheterid min hamita v'tadiach paneha. So we'll say that would be the amount of time that it takes her to get off the bed and to clean herself. Tadiach panel is a euphemism ultimately again for cleaning herself. Now we'll see how to read this last statement. The achar kach, and afterwards, so we'll say after the shear. So we're going to have to see what achar kach means. Achar kach sounds like that ultimately again, if she waited longer than that shear. So we'll say the first shear is es yom immediately. The next shear is achar zman, and the shear after that is achar zman. So it sounds like if she waited till the third window, then what? Metame me'is la'is, veda metame zbala. She'll become tamei me'is la'is for 24-hour retroactive period, but she does not convey any type of tumah to her husband. Rabbi Kiva omer af metame ezbala. Rabbi Kiva says no, she conveys tumah to her husband as well. Modim chachamim Rabbi Akiva beroa kesem shemetame ezbala. And the chachamim agree with Rabbi Akiva that if a woman sees a kesem, if she sees a stain, she conveys tumah to her husband. So we'll say so two things. So we understand from the Mishnah about the halacha vis-a-vis him, and we understand the halacha in the Mishnah vis-a-vis her when she discovers the stain, when she discovers the dam on the bedika cloth immediately. Once we get into the periods of time of achar zman and achar zman, we're going to need the Gemara to help clarify for us what exactly is happening, along with the case of the kesem. Good. So says the Gemara. So we'll say, let's analyze the first case. Case number one in the Mishnah was straightforward, which is what? So the couple has relations. After relations, husband checks and cleans himself with a bedika cloth, with the cloth, and he finds dam on his cloth. So what's the halacha say? What does the Mishnah say? Tmein. We take that to mean automatic assumption that she bled during biyah, and therefore it turns out that he had relations with a niddah, and therefore halacha l'maisa again he is tamei, and ultimately again would have to bring a karban. So the Gemara says v'neichosh dilma dam ma'acholesu. Says the Gemara, how do you know that it's blood of a niddah? Maybe dam ma'acholes. So we'll say Rashi says ma'acholes is a kina, a louse. Ve'amai tmein vaday lisrof truma l'schayi bekarban vaday lahavi safek litlos truma lahavi asham taloi v'lo chatas the dilma dam ma'acholesu shahaya ba'osam makam be'isha ukishabal nidbak bo. We'll say so again. Also remember, reflecting also different hygienic standards. But maybe lemaisa again, it's not dam niddah. Maybe it's the blood of a louse, right? That's where that blood is from. That's what it's from. So the Gemara says, Amar Rabbi Zeira osam makom badaku eitzal ma'acholas. To which the Gemara says, osam makom, that part of a woman's body doesn't have lice. So the Gemara says, Viki da'amri dachalku eitzal ma'acholas. So others say that ultimately again, that part of the body is narrow, and therefore again, lice or louse doesn't go there. So the Gemara says, well, so first opinion says baduk, second opinion says dachuk. V'ika da'amri dachulku eitzal ma'acholas. My benayu. So we'll say ultimately again, what's the nafkamina between baduk and dachuk? Ika benayu dishtachach ma'acholas ritzufa. We'll say, let's say on his cloth he finds a crushed louse. So we'll say, so what do you do with that? Lahach lishna damar badaku hame amaasi. So it's according to the opinion that says osamakum is baduk, that a woman doesn't find lice on that part of her body. So therefore again, that louse must have come from somewhere else. Lahaich lishna damar dacholku ema shamash ritzba. I'll say, but according to the opinion who says dachok means that because it's a narrow part of the body, a louse wouldn't normally go there. Normally means normally, but it's still possible, and therefore again you could attribute that blood to the blood of the kina. Good. So we'll say, so itmar. We'll say, now we get into fascinating cases. Batka be'eda badukla. So let's listen to this case. A woman checks herself with an eda baduk. So we'll say, one of the halachos that we're going to see when it comes to bedikos is that a woman has to inspect the bedika cloth prior to doing the bedika to make sure that at the end of the day it is clean. Because if it's not clean, if it's not previously inspected and she finds something on it, there is a possibility that that it was there beforehand. So listen to this case. Batka be'eda badukla. Let's say a woman checks herself with a checked cloth. So it's a clean cloth. What happens? So she checks herself. V'tachta bi'yarecha. She then and the reason is irrelevant, but she then goes ahead and she ends up touching her thigh with the bedika cloth. Ulamachar matza ale adam. And the next day, she finds blood on her thigh, the area that she touched with the bedika cloth. Now I will say, so this case can take on one of two possibilities. Where's the bedika cloth now? So remember again, so we'll say, I want to point out, the case over here, she did the bedika, did not look at the bedika cloth, went ahead and touched the bedika cloth to her thigh. The next day, she finds blood on her thigh. So it could be either that the case is that there's also blood on the bedika cloth, or it could also be that the bedika cloth is gone. So Rabbi says, so now here's what's the shaila? What's the shaila? The shaila is, how do I interpret this case? Do I assume that the blood from the thigh came from what? Came from the bedika cloth, in which case again she was blood on the bedika cloth, she is tameya, she's a niddah. Or do I say that maybe the bedika cloth was clean, there was blood on her thigh from something else, or something else, and therefore halacha l'maisa, she is tahora. So Amarav, so Gemara says, Machlokes, Amarav Tamei Niddah. Rav says, we assume that in this kind of case, she is definitely a Niddah. Rashi says, Tamei Niddah, Tuma Vaddois, Techevan Da'id Badukla, Shalahaya Badam, Koda Badika, Vadai Migufa Asa Ala Eid, Umisham Hutach Birecha, Valomin and Dilma Me Alma Asa Yerecha, Vesafek Tumos. So we'll say, so Rav says, Halacha Lamaisi, we assume that she's a Niddah. We don't assume that somehow there's blood on her thigh from something else. Rather, we assume that the blood on her thigh came from the blood of the bedika cloth. But Rabbi, once upon a time, you told us chosheshes. I will say chosheshes means she's a nida misafek. Here Rav is saying that she is a nida vadois. Itmar nami. So I will say Rav doesn't respond to this because either Rav never said that, or even if Rav said it, he changed his mind. Itmar nami amar Shmuel tamei nida. Shmuel said that she is tamei nida. V'chein morin bei midrasha tamei nida, and that is how they paskin in the base medrash. I will say that halacha l'maisa, such a woman is considered to be a nida. So we do not attribute the blood on her thigh to anything else, but rather we attribute the blood on her thigh to what? To the blood that came from the bedika cloth. Itmar. We'll say another case like this. Another case. Itmar badka be'etchena badukla. If a woman checks herself, now in this case, she's checking herself with a bedika cloth that is not pre-checked. It wasn't pre-checked, and therefore what? Ve'nichisa b'kofsa. Thank you. And she then put the bedika cloth in a box. She put it in a box. Ulam machar matza alav dam. And the next day she checked it, and she finds blood. Right? She finds blood on the bedika cloth. So Amar Rav Yosef, Kol Yomav Shabichia Timei. So we'll say all of the days. Now we'll say, so now understand what's the suffix in this case. The suffix in this case is she didn't pre-check the cloth. So she didn't pre-check the cloth, does the bedika, put it in a box. Next day comes and looks at it. So we'll say, so now what does she find? There's dam on the bedika cloth. What's the shaila? The shaila is that dam from the last bedika, or was that dam even there before? So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Yosef, Kol Yom Shabichia Timei. Throughout Rabbi Chia's entire life, he always says such a cloth is tamei. Ule'ei zikna sotir. But in his old age, he said that it was tar. So the Gemara says, let's analyze this. Ibailu. Heichi kamar. So what was he saying? Heichi kamar. Kal yamav timim mishum nida uleisik nasa tir mishum nida utir mishum kesem was Rabbi Chia saying that throughout in his earlier days he said she was tamei al tumas nida, but in his old age he relaxed things and he said it's only treated like a kesem. Kesem also means a stain. A kesem is always treated like a safek. O dilma kol yamav timim mishum kesem or the ziknaso tir mivelo klum. Or maybe he's saying throughout his earlier days he always said that such a particular cloth is treated like a stain, like a kasem, and therefore, let's say, for example, by truma, we would say tolin, and in his old age, he said that it's totally tar. So let's analyze. Tashma. Disanya badka be'echena badakla. Bryce says if a woman did a badika and she didn't pre-check the cloth, vinichasa bekufsa, she then put it in a box. Ulamachar matzalav dam. The next day she checked it and there's blood on it. What's the halacha? Rabbi Omer Tmei Mishum Niddah. Rabbi says it's Tmei Mishum Niddah. Right? She's a Niddah vados. Rabbi Chia Omer Tmei Mishum Kasem. Rabbi Chia says ultimately again she's Tmei, but it's a Kasem. Ravosa, which is another way of saying what? Safek. Tell me out Safek. I'm Rabbi Chia. So Rabbi Chia said, but 1 second. But you told us that the only time she becomes tamei is what? If there's the size of a gris. Now we'll say we'll get into the halachos of ksamim, but in order for a stain to be problematic, it has to satisfy a number of criteria. One of the criteria is that it has to be larger than the size of a gris. Right? So we'll say a gris is the size of a lentil. For our purposes today, size of a penny. Size of a penny. So we'll say that's a shir and kesem. When it comes to re'iyah, Rabbi says it's very important halacha. The only time, even contemporary hilchos nida, the only time that the shir of a gris makes a difference is when you're talking about a stain. When you're talking about something that comes out on a badika cloth, a size of a stain of any size could be potentially problematic. So the Gemara says, Rabbi says, so you say you needed a gris. Gris is a din in kesem, not a din in re'iyah. Va'old amarle aval amarlo imkain af ata asisa kesem. The Rabbi said, I want to say, sounds like he's talking about a kasem. Rabbi Savar, kinyan kegris va'od lafukim midam ma'acholas. We'll say Rabbi held as follows, that we require the stain to be larger than the size of a gris. Why? In order that it shouldn't be the potential that it's an insect. So I'll say the concern is if it's smaller than a gris, that could be the blood of an insect. Larger than a gris, it's not the shear of an insect. So I will say in this kind of case over here, because you have a certain level of suffix, remember again, she didn't check the badika cloth, she put it in a box. She's coming back the next day to look at it. There's blood on it. So Rabbi says, listen, it has to be larger than a gris, because if it's not larger than a gris, the concern is that it's from an insect. But once it is larger than a gris, the chayvan the nafek lemidam ma'acholes vaday migufa asa. Once it's larger than a gris, then I can be definitively certain that what? That it is from her body, and therefore is dam nida. My love, bizik nusakai. But we're not dealing over here where Rabbi Chia is talking about his, right, he's commenting in his old age. So we'll say, Habi I'll do so, Time Mishum Nida. So we'll say, so the fact that Rabbi Chia is looking at this as a kesem in his old age indicates to us that in his younger years he viewed this as Vaday Tumas Nida Shmamina. So we'll say, so it appears that ultimately again when he was younger, so ultimately Rabbi Chia treated a case like this like Vaday Tumas Nida, but as he got older he relaxed his position a little bit and only treated it like kesem. Good. But it's an interesting story. Mishtabach le Rebbe, the Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Chama Bar Bisa, the Adam Gadlu. So let's listen to this. So Rebbe was talking to Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Yossi about Rabbi Chama Bar Bisa. And Rebbe told Rabbi Shmuel that Rabbi Chama Bar Bisa was a big Talmud Chacham. Good. Amar lo, so Rabbi Shmuel says to Rebbe, Kishiyavo liatcha, haviu liyadi, bring him to me. Right, so Rabbi Shmuel says to Rabbi, listen, I want to meet this guy, Rabbi Chama Bar Bisa. When he comes your way, bring him to me. Good. Kiasa. So we'll say, so then it turned out, so Rabbi Chama Bar Bisa comes to town. And what happens? And Rabbi brings Rabbi Chama to Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Shmuel meets the young Talmud Chacham. Amar lei, boy minai milsa. So Rabbi Shmuel, who's the elder statesman, says to Rabbi Chama Bar Bisa, no, ask me a question. Ask me a question. So the Gemara asks him, if a woman checks herself with an unchecked, a non-pre-checked cloth, and she then put the cloth in a box, Ula machar matzalav dam. And the next morning, she checks the box, she checks the bedika cloth, and there's dam on it. Mahu. What is that halacha? Amar lo, Rabbi Shmuel says, Kedivrei Abba imalacha, or Kedivrei Rebbe imalacha. So what Rabbi Shmuel says back to Rabbi Bisa, should I tell you the opinion of my father? Remember, who was Rabbi Shmuel's father? Rabbi Yossi. Should I tell you my father's opinion or Rebbe's opinion? So Amar le, Kedivrei Rebbe. To which Rabbi Chanan Rabbi Bisa said, tell me Rebbe's opinion. Rabbi Shmuel gets upset. Eimali. I'm sorry, Rabbi Shmuel says, this is who Rebbe calls a great Talmid Chacham. I asked Rabbi Bisa, does he want to hear the opinion of Rabbi Yossi or the opinion of Rebbe? Now both say Rabbi Yossi was Rebbe's Rebbe. So Rabbi Shmuel is disappointed. He said, if I give you the choice to hear the opinion of the Rebbe or the opinion of the Talmud, why would you choose the opinion of the Talmud over the opinion of the Rebbe? Obviously, it's not such an Adam Gadol. So we'll say, what was Rabbi Chanan Bar Bisa's logic? Rabbi Chanan Bar Bisa Savar, Rebbe Reish Mesiftehu. He felt like this. Rebbe was the Rosh Hashiva. And therefore, again, as a result, Ushchichi Rabbanan Kamei Umechadde Shmaisese. As the Rosh Hashiva, so we'll say there were a lot of other Talmidei Chachamim who came to him with shilas, and as a result, they were able to. So we'll say the yeshiva was the hub of activity. Because it's the hub of activity, he had interaction with a lot of great Talmidei Chachamim. So as a result, he just felt that Rebbe would have a much more honed in Shita than Rabbi Yossi. Okay, that's the end of that story. I don't know what happened afterwards. So the Gemara says, my Rabbi Yossi. So we'll say, what are these two opinions? So remember again, Rabbi Shmuel points out that apparently there are two different opinions on this topic. What are the two different opinions? So Ravad Bar Masna, Tana, so we'll listen to this, Tana Rebbe Mitame, Rabbi Yossi Mitar. So we'll say, in this particular case of, again, a woman checks herself with an aid, with a bedika cloth that she did not examine prior to the bedika. She puts it in the box. The next day she finds dam on it. So we'll say, here we have a machlokes. Rabbi says she's a niddah. She finds blood on her, she's a niddah. Rabbi Yossi says she's tahora. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Zera, kishatime Rabbi, Rabbi Meir. When Rabbi held that she's tameh, he was aligning himself with Rabbi Meir, that we'll see in just a moment. Ukishatir Rabbi Yossi, when Rabbi Yossi said that she's tar, la'atzmotir, that was Rabbi Yossi's own independent shita. This Sanya, we'll say, here we go. It's an interesting case. Ha'isha shahaisa oset tzracha. We'll say if a woman was urinating, v'ra'a saddam, and she sees blood while urinating. So we'll say we're actually going to discuss this case because this is a Lamaisa case. Here we're talking about a little bit of different context. So Meir says as follows: Im omedes temeya. If she's urinating standing up, then she is temeya. Now we'll say, now what's the logic there? Look at Rashi. Omedes temeya dechevan de dechukahi hadr meiraglayim lemakar va'ayisi dam. So we'll say we're going to see this sugya later on as well. But apparently Rabbi Meir's issue is like this. Because a woman urinating standing up requires more exertion, there is a concern that uterine blood could be dislodged. Literally the lashon is that the urine's gonna go up and ultimately come back down. What it means is that because there's a greater level of exertion, there's a concern of uterine blood getting mixed in. Therefore, if she's urinating standing up, she's going to be tameya. Im yosheves, but if she is sitting and urinating and there's blood in the urine afterwards, tahora. Ultimately, again, we assume that she is tahora, because we assume that blood is non-uterine blood. It's coming from somewhere else. Rabbi Yossi says, ben kach u ben kach tahora. Rabbi Yossi says, ultimately, again, either way, she's turned. Now look at Rashi for just a moment. Yosheves tahora, v'mimakom meraglaim huba, ve'ein tamei eladam ha'makor. Midkan Rabbi Meir omedes tameya, v'afagav dika l'sapinu v'mimakom meraglaim, kevan d'raglaim l'davar d'dachik le'alma, v'chazak d'adam in ha'makor. So we'll say, what do you see from here? Rabbi Meir could have also easily said the blood comes from somewhere else. But Rabbi Meir says that since there's a factor that points us in the direction of dam niddah, i.e. that she's standing, therefore declare her niddah. Rebbe, who ultimately says that in the case of the bedika cloth, that Allah l'maisa, she checked herself with an unchecked cloth. She put it in a box, the next day she comes in, she looks at it, and what does she find? That there's dam on it. Even though, again, there's grounds to say that what? That halacha l'maisa, that blood is from elsewhere. Nevertheless, what? Rebbe says that she's tamei. That's in accordance with the sheet of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir, again, Rabbi L'shitasa also says that what? That halacha l'maisa, in a case where there's a strong suffix, that it could be that she's a niddah, halacha l'maisa will treat her like a niddah, like in the case of urinating standing up. Rabbi Yossi says, ben kach u ben kach Torah. Rabbi Yossi sheet, Rabbi say, is in general, as long as you could go ahead and attribute the blood to something else, we attribute the blood to something else. That's why even Rabbi Yossi will say that halacha l'maisa, in the case where she checked with an unchecked aid, with an unchecked bedika cloth, will attribute that blood to something else as well. Amli Rav Achabri Rav Rabashi, V'ha'am Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, Kishe Timei Rabbi Meir lo Timei Ela Mishum Kasem, V'ilu Rabbi Mishum Niddah Kamar. But one second, Rabbi say, even Rabbi Meir, when Rabbi Meir said that she's tamei, in the case of urinating standing up, he only declared that blood to have the power of a kesem, to have a power of a stain. So also remember again, a kesem, again, we'll discuss this, and we haven't discussed ksamim, but a kesem, Rabbi say, only has the ability to be metame something misafek. Say, yet Rebbe is using the sheet of Rabbi Meir to declare her a definitive niddah. Amrale anan hachi kamar ki itmar ahimishum niddah itmar. So we'll say in our version, Rabbi Meir doesn't just declare her tamei alts kesem, but Rabbi Meir declares her tamei alts niddah. So we'll say, so therefore again, it turns out that you have these dramatic cases of halacha l'maisa where you have a suffix. So we'll say ultimately again, so in both of these cases of suffix, the Shulchan Aruch paskins in these cases, that ultimately suffix leads to niddah. That whether halacha l'maisa, we'll say in case number one, where she checked with a pre-checked cloth, touched her thigh, didn't look at the bedika cloth, but ultimately again only put it in the kuf, so looked at it the next day, or didn't look at it the next day, but found blood on her thigh, we assume that is dam niddah. We assume that dam niddah. And I will say in the case ultimately again where she checked with an unchecked bedika cloth and then went ahead and put it in a kufsa, finds blood on it on the next day, we also paskin ultimately again that she's a niddah. We'll say the logic being in these cases that what? It's a suffix daraisa. So we'll say any situation in a suffix daraisa ultimately will what? Will be l'chumra. We'll say we'll see this is going to come up in circumstances, by the way, which happens where a woman does a bedika, it was a questionable bedika, and then what? It's lost. She loses the bedika cloth. So we'll see again, depending in what stage she's in or what she's doing a bedika for, we'll see the ramifications of the loss of that bedika cloth. Also, just the two more lines that will stop. Weiter. So let's remember again, the Mishnah said, if she finds blood on her bedika cloth immediately, then they're both tamei chayiv carbon. Tan Rabbanan ezu shir veses. But say, what does it mean immediately? What does immediately mean? Mashal l'shamesh ve'ed shalom mitzad mashcha. So what's like comparable to a woman who's having relations, and the bedika cloth was right by the window, still next to her bed. B'yetzias shamesh nichnas eid have veses shamar lekinuach avalo lebedika. So I'll say ultimately again. So literally immediately means that as soon as the bia is over, as soon as the man withdraws, she does the bedika. But I will say, the bedika here is not a real bedika. She doesn't need a bedika. What does she require? Ultimately, kinuach. Kinuach means a wiping. So immediately literally means that as soon as the bia is over, she wipes herself. In that situation, again, that's the immediacy where if she finds blood on the bedika cloth as a result of that immediate bedika, they're both tamein and chayav and karban. Fine, we'll say one more. We'll stop with this. I will say, what happens if she finds on her bedika cloth, not immediately, but after the period of immediately? So what's the halacha? So we'll say. So again, our Mishnah ruled that what? Tamei and misafek uptur min carbon. So we'll say they're tamei misafek and no carbon. Says the Gemara, quotes a brayse, Tana v'chayavin asham talui. But there's another brayse that says that they're chayavin asham talui, which I will say makes sense because if you're tamei and misafek, then what? That's an asham talui, right? So why doesn't our Mishnah bring down an asham talui? We'll say very quickly, my taima, but even we'll say a little bit of chazara, but in chaticha mishtei chatichos, because we'll say our Tana holds that what? Asham talui only exists when? Let's remember again, what was the example, paradigmatic example of what? Of Asham talui was what? Chaylev and Shuman, right? You need two distinct things, two distinct entities, and you're not sure which one you're part of. In this case, there's no two distinct entities, and therefore again, no Asham talui. So we'll stop over here. We'll pick up here Hashem tomorrow.